So what is designated ELD? It's a really loaded question, and we're actually still trying to figure that out. But let's just talk about some of the context around designated English language development instruction. First and foremost, it's protected instructional time that's provided during the school day, much like a student would get instruction in math, science, social studies, health, physical education. The instruction is based on those standards and skills taught within the context of that content area. English language development has its own set of ELD standards, or standards, if you will. They're actually broken up into three separate parts. One is around interacting in meaningful ways. And that really, the standards, the skills, and the functions there address the three modes of communication, such as collaborative interaction, interpretive information, and productive information. That's around presenting and being able to write in a more formal way. Learning about how English works, that second part, or part two, if you will, those are around the grammatical structures of English. So it integrates text structure, cohesion, modifying to add details. So we have parts of speech there. Really important language skills so that students see where language actually lives across the content area and in daily life. Foundational literacy skills. We don't want to leave that behind. Many of our students in secondary education, they have gaps in their foundational literacy skills by default. And maybe it wasn't explicitly taught to them, or maybe they came to the US beyond that kind of K3 instruction where foundational literacy skills are explicitly taught. But we owe it to our learners to be able to provide that sort of support. So, well, when we look at language development, let me just kind of tell you what it isn't. Okay, so we all want improved reading comprehension and fluency for our students, but that's not necessarily what English language development is. That's a byproduct of English language development. Because it's the language standards, skills, and functions that actually drive language development. For example, a student can navigate a really difficult text. We want them to be able to navigate different kinds of texts that might be lengthy and difficult. But that's not the end game. The whole idea around language development is if they can understand text structure, vocabulary, spelling patterns, being able to understand what a prefix or a suffix is, parts of speech, then we're actually raising comprehension and fluency. But again, that is not driving the instruction. It's the standards and skills that we explicitly teach that drives the instruction. Now, why is designated ELD important? Well, it addresses what our students should know and be able to do in various contexts. And when I talk about context, I'm talking about multiple discipline areas. Again, math, science, social studies. They have a language all their own, but in English language development, we want to make the invisible visible. So when students are going through their content, we want to elevate those language opportunities so they can see where language lives to be able to unpack that content. It also assists students in those critical language skills for academic content learning. So if they understand where language lives within the context of those multiple discipline areas, and it's more than just those content areas, it's actually in daily life as well. We're actually providing them with the resources that they need to be successful and become fluent English proficiency speakers, readers, and writers. Lastly, how is designated ELD used in the Language Tree online program? Well, first and foremost, it provides our teachers the necessary guidance that they need to deliver that rigorous, linguistically and academically rich curriculum that is aligned to, that standards aligned. So we don't want to, and it's not equitable for our teachers just to be able not have the insight to be able to teach without that structure or that context. So that's where those resources come in, the opportunity to have input, those practice opportunities, those resources where students are actually engaging in language in multiple modes and different ways. It's also a framework. We want teachers to have progress monitoring. We want them to have formative assessment opportunities. We don't just want an entry assessment and an exit assessment that doesn't provide progress monitoring along the way. So this is where our program is really going to provide the context for the teachers as well as the students, but also opportunities to really engage in the English language.